Boom. We are live, Nico, Jansen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Pierre. As always, I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. What will happen within this hour, with respect to no one can hear me. I'm
Yes.
disappearing. So it's not some. It's some kind of funny Easter egg, right? Which we always do just to keep the audience pretty much posting in the chat as well, right? Just giving the audience a little bit of extra hype. But I'm good. How are you, Pierre?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm doing great. I actually have some weird background noise in my phone today, so I think we have a little bit of a weird bug today. I don't know if you can hear that, or maybe
No.
it's no. I think I'm listening to my own stream. That's why. Oh,
Okay.
there we go. There we go. I'm listening to the home stream. That's why. Always something up in the beginning of this. But anyway, Nico, it's nice to have you here today, my friend. It's been like always a crazy interesting week here in the iGaming industry. We say it every single week, but it keeps getting better and better, and that's why. And today we have a very special session because it's earnings week today, isn't it, Nico?
It's reporting week. It's reporting week. Exactly, exactly. So we're seeing the last official or the first official numbers flying in. Big companies like the Cambrie, the Leo Vegas reporting, and it's interesting, right? It's because this is the earnings year, and we just see how good each and every company has performed, right? Besides this, we I'm pretty sure we will talk about evolution as well. They
Yes.
did a great event. Thank you once again to you and your team for literally helping them out a little bit. So it's, as you said, every week it's a thrilling week, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are live today as per usual here. And I don't know if Nico in the background, if we want to put up the chat today, but I think that's a lovely little element that we have here, so that we are able to see the comment. Oh, there we go. That's awesome. So anyone who is listening in today is able to comment here. And good morning to Martin Frint here who's joining us. And so everyone who is joining in, this is always a little bit scary for us because we never know what comments or questions going to show up here in the chat. But it was makes the live stream come more alive, I think, Nico. But you know, so as we said, we have earnings week ahead today, and the Q4 21 earnings week is something that a lot of the industry and a lot of the investors have been looking forward to because during the quarter there's been plenty news and plenty of updates and plenty of ups and downs in the industry. Obviously, the quarter started with the fact that many of the European-facing operators had to shut down the Netherlands, which was a key market to a lot of the, especially a lot of the Scandinavian-listed companies, which reported this week, of course, and that was followed up with some damning short seller reports here against Evolution that took place during the quarter as well. And it's like we were joking about the other day here, like we should measure iGaming years as dog years, as in like one normal year is 7 years in the iGaming industry, because things are just happening so very quickly here, and
Mm-hmm.
during this quarter is just a testament to that. So this earnings week and this earnings season has really been one of the most pivotal, if not the most pivotal and exciting earnings week to have been looking forward to in a very long time here, Nico. What do you say? Like, what do we have in front of us here today?
What do we have in front of us? First of all, I'm pretty sure we'll be joined by guests once again. We will just, have a little hat and we will just pull them out. So we will be accompanied by experts on their respective field, pretty much talking about evolution, the roadmap. We will talk about the quarterly reports. There has been a quite controversial going on with Cambrie and Kindred, with the stocks, first of all, being pretty much going down, not in a free fall, but pretty much going down and recovering at the same day. So this was pretty much funny to just see how volatile the stocks have been and how they reacted to news, but we will cover this one. We will talk about one new market being about to open up in Canada, Ontario. And then we will be pretty much zooming in into Entain as well. So we have lots to cover, and we will be joined by guests once again, which is always thrilling to see.
Yes, absolutely. So today we have two special guests with us today. We're trying to take a step up here each and every weekly news report that we do. We have Jake Evans with us today, who is the managing editor of iGaming Next, and we will also have Connor Mulher, who's our editor as well at iGaming Next, to cover some of these topics that we have in front of us today. But Nico, I would suggest that we'll start here with the evolution on the side of evolution here, because they had two interesting kind of stories to cover this week. Yeah, first of all, they hosted their first ever digital event, which revealed the roadmap that they had ahead of them in 2022, and as well, the next day they reported on the quarterly report that came out here on Wednesday as well. And so, to cover this story a bit, we'd like to welcome Connor Mulher into the stream, if the technology is with us today, and hopefully, Nico, your audio is still going to work here. Good morning, Connor. How are you doing today?
Good morning. Hi, fellas. I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very good. And it's nice to have you here, Connor, and nice to see you in the stream here as well. So just jumping straight into it, Connor. I mean, you covered this story of the Evolution online event that was broadcasted on Tuesday, and you put together a really interesting and good piece that is live on iGaming Next here to summarize exactly what Evolution revealed here. So I suppose I have two questions for you here. First of all, can you summarize the online event that was being broadcasted? And then number two, are you Team Baskin or Team Exotic?
Well, I think you know my answer to that one. If anybody's seen the picture of me in fancy dress as Joe Exotic, then there's no doubt in anyone's mind. But the event, I mean, let's start if we can with the results, because I think that you said back when the Q3 report came out, Pierre, I remember you said that you were tired of talking about Evolution's results as another record-breaking quarter. They've broken another record and another record and another record. Well, guess what? As we expected, they've broken another record this year. But not only that, they've surpassed quite a significant milestone to my mind, which is that they've had their first €1 billion revenue year in 2021, which is incredibly impressive. So revenue for the full year was up like 91%. They've expanded their network of studios, the number of tables they've got live. They've increased their headcount massively. And in spite of all that, an increase in costs, I think operational costs overall were up about 24%. They've still managed to maintain this really high EBITDA margin that we're used to seeing from Evo. So 68.7% margin across the year, which I think is a very slight dip from what we might be used to, but that's given them €735 million in EBITDA, which is unbelievable. It's more than double what they had in 2020. And overall, that's left them with a net income of like €600 million. So, you know, massive success, enormous success for Evolution. Again, that's more than double what they had in 2020. It brings their earnings per share to about €2.83 per share. And of course, as a result of that, Evo's board of directors has proposed a dividend to its shareholders of about €1.42 per share. So that's more than €300 million that's going to be returned to its shareholders this year, which represents just over half of its net income. So shareholders should be happy, I think. They should be quite pleased with that. What's happened in the markets, though, I think ever since those kind of short seller reports started coming out at the back end of last year, I think the market's had a lot of trouble pricing Evolution, and it's been struggling to find its feet. And you can see that this week. I mean, there's been quite a lot of volatility in terms of the price, and yet the price today is less than 0.1% lower than it was on Monday. So it's as if the massive online event with the 2022 roadmap and the report with the €1 billion revenue, massive profits, have had almost no material impact whatsoever on the share price, although the confidence has kind of gone up and down. And I think short seller reports aside, and I'm definitely not going to get into questions about how many EBITDA multiples we should use, because that just causes arguments. I'll leave that for another day. But if we put that to one side, I think investors are starting to ask themselves, with regards to Evolution. How are Evolution going to keep this growth rate up? I think the quarter-on-quarter growth rate has been kind of 10 to 15% historically, certainly over the last year or two, but that includes, of course, the NetEnt and the big time gaming acquisitions, which kind of bolstered that revenue growth. And now I think quarter-on-quarter from Q3 to Q4 was a bit more modest. I think it 10.7%. So, and from Q3 to Q4 was, pardon me, 8.8% in Q4. So it's starting to kind of dip below this 10% quarter-on-quarter revenue benchmark that we're sort of getting used to. I think there's a few reasons for that. The NetEnt and the BGT businesses are not performing quite as well as we might like, but I think they're performing realistically. You know, they've had sort of a couple of percent growth between Q3 and Q4. I think overall, year on year, they were up about 8% between them on a pro forma basis. So, look, I mean, Live's still growing. The RNG businesses, not so much, but they are getting there. I think Martin Carlson said the other day that they do expect growth from these businesses over the next year, but it will be non-linear in its nature. So maybe one of you knows what that means. Perhaps there'll be a bit of 2 steps forward, 1 steps back for the RNG businesses. But we'll see. And I think, to Evolution's credit, they did set out a lot of the ways that they expect to see this growth coming in their online event on Tuesday. And I think a big focus for them obviously is product. They are a product-driven business. They're all about the customer first. And I think there was a lot of really positive stuff to come out of that online event. So there were 25 new games that were announced just on Tuesday. By the end of this year, they're going to have launched 88 new games, which is kind of massive. And there was some really interesting stuff in there. So I'll try and be quick because I know we haven't got all morning. But a few of my kind of favorite little bits. So there are some new product innovations coming for Asian markets with some of these traditional Indian and Chinese games like Sikbo, Team Patty, Andabaha. So we've got Ultimate Andabaha and Ultimate Sikbo coming out through Izugi. And we've got a new version of Team Patty, I think, coming out through the Evolution brand. And that seems to me that we're giving some of these more traditional localized games what I would call the Evolution treatment, you know. So what we've had with Lightning Roulette and kind of introducing that massive additional volatility to the game, making them that much more exciting and engaging, giving bigger jackpots. We've got side bets added to Andabaha. Todd, Evolution's chief product officer, said that he prefers the side bets to the main game in Ultimate Andabaha. And so I think if they have anything like the impact that games like Lightning Roulette have had, then they're going to be able to really help Evolution to continue capturing that market share in some of those Asian markets. So I think that's a really positive development. Another thing, possibly the most exciting thing, could this be the next big thing in slots? It remains to be seen. Evolution has introduced a new game category altogether, which is live slots. So the first one's going to be called Crazy Coin Flip, and it looks a lot like a traditional slot interface when you're first playing. It's something that we're all used to, we've all seen before, and then all of a sudden, when you get to a bonus round, you are transported into the live studio where there's a live dealer. And your bonus amount will be based on the flip of a coin, which is a functionality from Crazy Time. It's one of the bonus rounds from Crazy Time. And I think that could be a really interesting project. It remains to be seen whether it will work. If it does, Todd told us to expect more live slots in the future. But there could be a number of benefits to that. There could be, we could generate this crossover from more traditional slots players into live casino. We could see that kind of cross-sell going on. It could be a very comfortable introduction for a lot of people who are not used to playing live dealer games. And also, I think it's a demonstration of the way that Evo's acquired businesses are starting to work together with its core business, right? Because it's got all this slot development capability all of a sudden. It wasn't necessarily clear what it was going to do with it, But these kind of synergies are exactly what we want to see from a product perspective. I think it's a really interesting project, and I'd be interested to see how it plays. I mean, I'm a very casual, very occasional casino player, and I'm not a big slot enthusiast generally. But I think that this is certainly one way of adding that additional layer of excitement to it, adding those big bonuses, big multipliers, and having that live environment. Of course, you're not going to be the only one watching the live dealer, which adds in another social element to slots, which is something which is sorely lacking from that area of the industry, in my view. So could it be the future of slots? We'll see. We will see. If I may, one more. I'll give you one more thing that I thought was absolutely really interesting, and that is all about DigiWheel. So Evolution acquired DigiWheel in, what was it, about December? I think that went through. It was back end of last year. They acquired DigiWheel, which is this enormous HD screen of a wheel which can be put into land-based casinos and can then be played on these wheel-based games. So I think at the moment it's playing Dreamcatcher, which is one of Evo's game show style wheel-based games. And I think this is potentially a really interesting avenue for Evolution. They're breaking out of online a little bit. They're bringing their products to the land-based casino experience. And when you start to do that, I don't know how many casinos there are around the world, but there are quite a lot. And if Evo can get these land-based products to have the same kind of kudos and the same respect as its online products, there's not an online casino operator in the world who feels confident going without Evolution's products, right? You kind of have to offer them. It's the market leader for live, and that's the fastest growing vertical in casino, if I'm not mistaken. So what if they can get their land-based product to the same point, where land-based operators feel the same way about the DigiWheel as online operators do about Lightning Roulette, So I think it's very exciting. And then, of course, we've got all the new slots. The reason you asked me about Joe Exotic, we've got the Big Cat Rescue slot. We've got Knight Rider. We've got a crossover slot called Superstars, which I think has got some exciting functionalities, although that's all a little bit secretive still. So lots to look forward to, and of course there's a global expansion going on throughout Evolution. So you mentioned the Netherlands quickly earlier, and it appears that Evo's having great success there already. They're certainly powering a majority of the licensed operators, and I think I read the other day that the Bernd Henning has asked, do I know if the new slots are allowed under German license restrictions? No, sorry. Someone will know. It's not me.
I think right now Evo hasn't given any clarity on exactly the mechanics in the game, so it still remains to be seen if they will be able to go live in the local markets, including Germany as well. But it's certainly a point that we can keep an eye on here, Brenton. It's a good point as well. We can reach out to Evolution actually and clarify this question for sure. I don't know, Nico, if you have any insight here, seeing that you are very much specialized in Germany.
Not yet. So with respect to how the Evolution games will fit into the German regulation, I just know that they released the roadmap claiming that they will release 55 games, and they already gave a peek about 28 games. So it will be a pretty much strict roadmap. It's a tight roadmap. They are not playing around, as Jake already pointed out.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, to summarize here, it's obviously a lot of interesting news coming out from Evolution. They are revealing part of the roadmap for 2022 with some interesting releases, although they are still teasing with a lot of these releases overall. So I guess it remains to be seen when they mention here, for example, that the Superstars is the most expensive slots that ever has been produced, the crazy time of slots, so to say. But we still haven't seen much from it. So to summarize, I think that the roadmap looks very exciting. It looks interesting. A lot of I was following the discussions among the retail segment here along the way, during the event, and there was a lot of excitement for some of the games, and some disappointment, I must add, as well. For I think on the netted side of thing, the comments generally as we were watching this live were a little bit not super positive. They had been hoping for a little bit more at times, but nonetheless, 88 games is still the roadmap, and not all these 88 games will be A-list games, of course. Yes.
Yeah, and I think we have to remember, we've got very clever product teams at Evolution, and I don't think that we've seen the 25 biggest games of the year yet. I think we might have seen one or two of the biggest games of the year, but we know they're holding something back, and we know there'll be more to come.
Sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Connor, for coming today and shedding some light on the evolution, both the quarterly report and the digital event here. And again, there's really great reporting that was done as well by here, Connor. So if anyone wants to kind of check out the executive summary of this event, just go to iGamingX.com, go into the news section, and there'll be a nice summary waiting for you over there. But yeah, thank you, Connor, and have a nice day over there. I will see you a little bit later after this stream, so yeah, don't run away.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me. I'll see you again soon.
Awesome.
Okay. Bye,
thank you,
Connor.
Thank you so much. All right, that was brilliant, Nico. And any comments here on your side before we switch over to the kind of earnings seasons overall here?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. So I could have never zoomed into that kind of detail what Connor just did. I'm
Absolutely
amazed, just amazed. To be honest, just amazed. And I was just listening, and I'm thrilled to actually have a reread of the executive summary as well. First of all, sorry for misspelling it. It's not 55, it's 88 games. And as Connor already pointed out, I'm pretty sure Todd has something he's very keen on releasing during the year. There's in the end, and there was a statement by Todd Householder as well, that they created the creativity and innovation culture within Evolution. So there is something we are about to see. And if I just remember when he was having the or leading the panel during the last event that you hosted in Malta, you're literally taking or literally attracted to his lips. Whatever comes out of his mouth is pretty well thought. It's an amazing guy. Standing for amazing products, and I'm pretty sure I'm thrilled to just see what we will be having this year by end of this year.
Absolutely, Nico. And what do you say? Shall we jump over here now to the earnings season, Nico? Some very interesting, obviously, reports that come out during the week, and we have another special guest here today in the weekly news wrap up, which is our very own managing editor at iGaming, Jake Evans. So I'd like to welcome Jake into the stream as well, if we may. There we go. There he is. Jake is back.
Good morning, guys.
How are you today, Jake? Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you both doing?
Fantastic. It's been a great start here to the weekly news wrap up, of course. And to jump straight into it, Jake. I mean, there's been a lot of different companies reporting this week within the industry. Cambrie, Evolution, Leo Vegas, Betsson, Kindred, BetMGM, Evolution Esports Technologies, and everything in between. So we obviously won't have time to cover all of them in detail here, but I know that you have been hard at work here, Jake, to cover these reports individually during the week. So I'd like to just kind of jump over to you and give us your kind of summary on these reports as you've seen them.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. I think you're right. There's been sort of eight public gambling companies all reporting their Q4 and full year reports this week. And it's been intense. It's a bit like that Simpsons meme, like, won't somebody think of the journalists or the analysts? Going to bed at night and sort of seeing the Matrix numbers like behind my eyelids. It's just a lot of data to take on board. But yeah, been really interesting, of course. It's mostly been the European companies, apart from MGM and Esports Technology. And I think, obviously, as you guys just had a really interesting discussion on Evolution, there's just one thing I wanted to point out on their results. I mean,
Yes.
Q4 revenue up sort of 70%, like absolutely playing a different ball game to all the other gambling companies that have reported so far this week. I mean, 300 million in Q4 revenue and full year revenue of more than $1 billion. And just to, it strikes me as funny. I mean, we put a poll on Twitter that said the Evolution end of year report was, and you had the option to vote: amazing, better than you expected, just as you expected, or worse than you expected. It had like 350 votes or something like that, and 61% of people said just as you expected. And we've got a company delivering absolutely ludicrous performance, sort of quarter in, quarter out. Just keeps on getting stronger and stronger. But it's just as people suspect now. That's the norm from Evolution. There's nothing to see here, kind of. So yeah, it kind of shows that they're just
the expectations
in
are
a different
massive
realm.
on Evolution. It's incredible that they keep growing exponentially and showing this insane growth quarter on quarter, and still the shareholders are, if you look at the share price, they are not pleased. They want more.
Not convinced. Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we've said enough on Evolution now, and there are a lot of other huge gambling companies reporting this week. So Kindred, for example, and Betsson both reported. They don't have dissimilar business models, and I think it's important to contextualize these results. So Kindred was down 34% year on year. Betsson was only 10% down. But if you cast your minds back to Q4 of last year, almost every company was reporting a record quarter for revenue. It was like the absolute perfect storm because of the pandemic. It was, ordinary punters and players couldn't go out. They were basically in lockdown, so it could only really, a lot of them were gambling online. But then you had the sports fixtures that had all been cancelled earlier on in the year, rearranged for the Q4 period. So there was like millions of different sporting events happening every day for people to bet on. And I think Kindred said it was an all-time high sports betting margin last Q4 of 10%. And that's dropped down to 8.5% in this quarter for them. But Betsson conversely had an all-time low sports betting margin this year of 6%. So it's polar opposites, really, comparing this year to last year. And I think it was well flagged, right? It was never going to be sustainable for these companies to keep on growing from Q4 of last year, because it was just uncharted territories, really. We're never probably going to get an environment like that again. And I think Entain's CFO, Rob Wood, did a very good job of kind of setting expectations in the market and saying Q3, Q4, that's when the growth is going to start to die out, and we're going to see a little bit of a correction. And that is definitely what we have seen, especially for these businesses that have a bit more of a sports betting, arm as well. I mean, Leo Vegas reported today. I haven't had a chance to sort of dig deep into the numbers, but their revenues come in relatively flat at sort of 98 million. So they don't have the sports which really boosted them in Q4 of last year, but then that also hasn't led to a downturn this time around. So I think, I don't know if you have any thoughts. I think people think Leo Vegas and Betsson have done probably pretty decent, considering they've both lost the Netherlands, obviously, and there's headwinds in Germany to try and navigate. I think both of their results are probably better than expected, and we saw Betsson's share price climb yesterday because of that. But I'll bring you two and see what you want to talk. I think we're obviously going to talk about Cambrie and Kindred a little bit as well, because that wasn't to do with results necessarily, but that was one of the most interesting things to me this week.
Yeah, but I think before that, on the operator side of things here, as you mentioned, Leo Vegas, Betsson, Kindred, even though Betsson has been doing well in the last quarter, and they are reporting that they are looking at a strong Q1 so far in the year as well. However, they seem slightly to be in a bit of a no man's land at the same time. The operators, as you're saying here, they've had good tailwind throughout the pandemic, but it's now kind of flattening out, so to say, and obviously Q4 was challenging with both the Netherlands dropping out and also the fact that the quarter started with the worst sportsbook margins that has ever been reported. I think it was Betsson who mentioned that, Pontus Lindvall, and looking into the future quarters here, and especially zooming in on the Netherlands, when the likes of Kindred, Betsson, and Leo Vegas go live in Netherlands again, it's really important to remember that they are not allowed to use the databases that they have built up over the last 15, 20 years in that locality. So they will have to start from scratch, from zero. And anyone who's involved in marketing and entering new demographics know that it's not cheap to launch in a new market, and especially since other operators have had a head start against them as well. So once Kindred, for example, who lost 35% of the EBITDA overnight when they had to shut down the Netherlands, once they go live again, it's not only are they going to be kind of flat in the revenue, but they will actually lose money in the first couple of quarters because of the investments in marketing before the market turns profitable. So it's not like, from one night to the other, that revenue is going to come back. That is permanently gone, and they will have to fight to reclaim that revenue, essentially.
And that's without assessing for the fact that there's been sort of 10 regulated operators in that market already for the last 6 or 7 months. It will have been by then. So yeah, the competition's got a lot stiffer, it's fair to say.
Absolutely. So looking in now, Jake, on the supplier side as well, I think what's really interesting, especially on the Cambrie side here, is it's not often you see such a swing in share price in such a short amount of time for a nearly 1 billion euro company. Can you bring to light a little bit what happened here with Cambrie in their total roller coaster ride on Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah, of course. And I think, investors kind of went on a very similar journey to I did as I was covering this story, where, initially you read it, the release came out the night before quite late, and you read it and you think, oh, Kindred is building an in-house sports book. It's very on trend. It's a strategy operators are talking about at the moment. They want to get more control of their product and everything. And oh no, it's another huge client leaving Cambrie effectively. We've already seen DraftKings go in-house, Penn National Gaming, one of their huge US clients, go in-house, and 888 obviously migrated onto its proprietary sportsbook as well. And the initial thought was, oh, here's another major client that's sort of jumping the ship to build its own product. And that's what I think caused that initial share price decline, because people are kind of wondering, well, if all the sort of A-list operators are moving away from Cambrie, what waters are they going to have left to fish in? Is it going to be kind of smaller LATAM land-based operators that want to build online sports books, or how are they going to replace these businesses basically in the portfolio? And then you read into it a little bit deeper, and Cambrie's version and the Cambrie's press release is very different to Kindred's, and you were kind of left to work out who was breaking up with who, it felt like, because Kindred isn't a business that's based on building good products, right? They're really good at acquiring customers, sort of brand strategy and all this thing, but they rely heavily on third-party suppliers, whether it be Relax Gaming until they bought them, obviously Evolution, Sport Radar in France, and Cambrie elsewhere. So I'm not sure people totally believe that. And then it obviously comes to Cambrie and this poison pill, so to speak, in this convertible bond, which is the really kind of the crux of the matter, where Cambrie are now able to pay up to break free of that, and that effectively previously gave Kindred huge influence over Cambrie. Let's not forget that both companies were part of Unibet Group and formed under the same umbrella before Cambrie was obviously spun out as a separate business in 2014. And shareholders started to join the dots and think, well, if Cambrie is not bound by Kindred anymore and Kindred doesn't have this influence, then management are going to be free to pursue basically whatever strategy they want without being involved into their biggest clients. And that could mean that they're a massive target now for acquisition. Like we've spoken about the trend with in-house you've got probably one of the best bits of sportsbook software in the world. If that's going to be acquired, then you'd think there'd be some operators that would jump at the chance of bringing that on board. So yeah, they suddenly became the hottest property for an acquisition after sort of originally being jilted by Kindred. So it's like a quick turnaround all in the space of 24 hours. But
talk about that. Like they opened the day 12% down on the market, which is a very big drop for a €1 billion company, and they closed the day with like 12% up essentially. So they had a swing of like 25% in one day, which is just absolutely remarkable.
Yeah, fair play to any shareholders who bought in that dip. I mean, overnight millionaires, some of them, I think.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. So is there any other takeaways here, Jake, from the quarterly reports as you've seen them? There was BetMGM, of course, reporting and others as well. But are there any other, would you say, interesting top bullet points to mention
so
here?
I think BetMGM was already covered quite a lot by a BetMGM trading update that Entain obviously released earlier in the year. But the other one that caught my eye was Esports Technologies, who obviously acquired Aspire Global's B2C casino and sports betting brands a little bit earlier this year, which you covered on the podcast, Pierre. And I'm not convinced by these esports public listed companies yet, either Esports Technologies or Esports Entertainment Group. I think they're both Nasdaq listed. And obviously it's an amazing story to tell investors, right? We are the ones with esports in our name. We are going to, break down these barriers and really go sort of esports first rather than betting first with esports as an add-on. And investors have lapped that up, and that's why they've ended up being able to list, because they can earn a lot of money through fundings round and this kind of thing. And then you sort of peel back the curtain a little bit, and the only revenues these companies are generating, Esports Technology, all of their revenue has come from the acquired Aspire brands, which are just B2C sports betting and casino brands, right? There's not any esports revenues there, really. The idea is that they're building an amazing esports modeling system that they can then cross-sell customers from those B2C brands into. But, there's that question again, are casino and sports bettors going to be happy to be cross-sold into esports? Is there as much of an overlap there as we think? Probably not. And then Esports Entertainment Group, it's the same thing. They bought Argyle Entertainment, a big UK operator with some strong US-facing brands like Sport Nation. But again, they're just conventional sports betting brands, and that's where the bulk of their revenue is coming from. It's not, I think in Q3 of last year, like no revenue had been derived from esports betting. So it's an interesting story, and investors are lapping it up right now. But I think a year from now, we need to start seeing some esports revenue coming from these businesses, because otherwise it's kind of, it's not quite as it seems.
The markets are very much reflecting on what you're saying here, Jake, because since a couple of days back, Esports Technologies is about 20% down on the markets. And looking back to November, so if you take 3 months back, they are nearly 70% down on the markets here. So obviously, investors are expecting them to start turning a profit and
I mean, it might be short-termism from me. I mean, they might be doing exactly the right strategy, because esports betting, we're not going to see reach its full potential for a while. So it's unfair for me to judge them now. And perhaps acquiring brands that have been there and done it, and the technology's there, is the way to do that and to build upon that. But the proof will be in the pudding, and it's not there now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jake, for summarizing the earnings week here for us. It happens every quarter where this particular week is when especially the Scandinavian-facing iGaming brands are reporting at the same time. So it just gives us a perfect opportunity to discuss all these reports together here. So thanks, Jake, for reporting on this as well, and for reading in. And I will see you a little bit later as well together with Connor. But thank you again for joining the stream today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm going to head over to the Cambrie webcast now. So perfect timing. Thanks a lot, gents. See you.
Thank you, Jake.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Nico. That was absolutely brilliant. Like, what's your comments and feelings here so far on the stream, and also nice to see Bogdan here on the stream today as well. And you missed out on some quite interesting discussions here earlier. But Nico, how about a little bit of a wrap up here so far of what we discussed?
So in the end, I was just an eager listener. As said, Jake and Connor, they just know what they're talking about, right? And for sure, they had interesting topics to cover as well. And as said, it's just amazing what we actually see from all these companies and where they're heading towards, right? What's the impact of needed to step down from the Dutch market? I'm pretty sure we will just cover another story of Kindred with their journey to zero. What has been the impact also from literally stepping out of the Dutch markets as well. But as said, I'm just amazed and so thrilled to just being in this very, very moving industry as well. Whether you calculate it as dog years or cat years, whatever, it's just so fast and so evolving, and it's just nice to actually talk to people who are zooming in into all kinds of topics, and you can just learn quite a lot.
Absolutely, and as you mentioned here, Nico, the Kindred's journey to zero, I think it's an interesting topic to lift here today as well. So for those of you who haven't followed the news in the last year or so, Kindred has committed themselves to eliminate harmful gambling revenue by 2023. So essentially, they want to eliminate any potential revenue that derives from harmful gambling. And in its quest to achieve that, they have chosen a way to be transparent through this. And in every quarterly report, they disclosed how much of the revenue derives from harmful gambling. Now, they have their own proprietary system who defines what potential harmful gambling revenue means. But nonetheless, they have been reporting a year ago that 4% of their total revenue approximately derives from potential harmful gambling. And now, a year later, in the latest quarterly report, that number is still 4%. And so in a year of effort, unfortunately, Kindred hasn't been able to make any strides on this commitment. And that kind of brings us to the larger question, which is it, and we have been reporting on this throughout the entire year, is it possible to eliminate harmful gambling using AI tools? And so far, that question has not really been answered. But I don't know, Nico, what you feel here, and is there any comments or nuance that you can give on this question? And what is the right strategy to take in general?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a little bit more complex, right? So Kindred, they released actually 2 reports. First of all over the board, all over the company, and then UK specifics with respect to high risk revenues being explained and where they're actually origins from. So for the whole group, for the Q4 2021, they reported 4%, but for UK, they reported roughly 3.3%, and they decreased by 16%. What we always also should keep in mind is Q1 number has been 3.9%, Q4 number 4.3%, but then the Q3 number has been reported with 3.3%. So we see they are going down. The Q3 was also the last quarter where actually the numbers from the Netherlands have still been within that report. And now Q4 numbers, the rate of harmful gambling, harmful revenues actually rose, while 30% of EBITDA has been gone down because they actually left the Dutch market. In the end, of course, we can do a calculation, but we see within the numbers that most of the revenues they gained from the Netherlands must have been wealthy or non-harmful gamblers, which also shows that the Dutch market seems to be a very mature market as well. And if we just zoom into the comments, first of all, the reason behind this uptick, there has been an official statement, and they stated that this increase is partly to the holiday season being a sensitive time for some people, and because Kindred ceasing activity in the Dutch market at the end of September as well. But they did not give an official statement why its withdrawal from the Netherlands, the Dutch market, has resulted in a greater proportion of high-risk gambling revenues from elsewhere in its business, right? So it's quite interesting. And as we are always eyeing on these numbers, as soon as they release a quarterly report, it's the first thing we actually take a look at. Okay, how much is the reported numbers from the addiction highly affected, and this is just something which we also keep in mind. So it's just interesting to actually follow on this journey.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of nuances to take into consideration here. Looking at Entain, for example, they have chose a little bit of a different route, but they have their proprietary system as well, which they call ARC, which is this AI-powered machine learning proprietary system, which also tries to detect harmful gambling and take action automatically. But they have not committed themselves to any specific goal, because they are aware of the fact that this system can also give false positives. And as a player, you as a customer, as a player, as a gambler, you don't want to be shut off from enjoying your service as a result of a mistake by this system. So they need to take that into consideration as well. And I'm really curious to see how Kindred will be able to reach this zero vision that they have without giving false positives. I think that's really where the difficulty lies in solving that problem, essentially. Removing harmful play but avoiding the false positives, essentially. So interesting, and we'll definitely keep on covering this ambition by Kindred, and it will be very interesting to see the strides that they make now throughout the year. They are still confident that they'll reach this vision, but I think now from the next quarter and so on is where we will have to start seeing bigger strides, essentially. Awesome, Nico. What to say? I mean, the hour is rushing away from here. So here we have 8 minutes to go. What to say? We'll make the most of these 8 minutes now, Nico. I know that you are keen as well to talk about the Canadian market here. Ontario, obviously opening up in a couple of months here, and there's been some quite big movements on that side as well. So why don't you take over here and give some nuance as well to what's going on in Canada at the moment?
Yeah, so first of all, the Canadian market is expected to have a gaming related revenue of around 4 billion at the year of 2030, which is quite a decent market. Just talking about on Ontario. But what is so specific about the geolocation of Ontario as well? It's pretty close, first of all, to the US. And the market, freshly opened market, freshly opened market of New York is just around the corner. They are literally neighbors. I'm pretty sure we covered the handles, records of New York. It's a wonder kid. Long story short, within the first 22 days, they didn't even report a full month. Having a handle of $1.6 billion, exceeding the highest ever reported number from New Jersey by $300 million. So that's why the geolocation of Ontario is so specific. So what we have seen, the Ontario Gaming and Alcohol Association, they already have given out 3 licenses already. So they have been giving out licenses, if I'm not mistaken, just let me look it up, to the Score, which is run by Penn National, also the Rivalry Corporation, and PointsBet Canada. So already 3 licenses have been given out. And last but not least, we already see some movements in the M&A market as well, as Entain has bought into the Canadian market as well, not the Ontario market, but the Quebec market, which is just around the corner, with their acquisition of the Mohawk bookmarkers services of sports interaction. So like in the US as well, you have the Indian resorts, and there's one Mohawk Online, which run the casino and sports betting services of the just Kanawaki Indians. And this is a small resort which is close to Montreal. So we already see the bigger operators actually either buying into the Canadian market or preparing their market entry into Canada as well. I know that Bet365 is also eyeing on the Canadian market, Ontario as well, because they didn't get a license in New York for specific reasons. Maybe it was a business decision that they didn't want to go all in. But as said, Ontario is just around the corner. Same languages, same language with English being spoken. So Canada might be a next big movement we for sure will be seeing.
Absolutely, and also interesting to note on the B2B side of things that as opposed to the American market, the United States, where the suppliers are ring-fenced within each individual state. So let's take Evolution, for example. They have to build individual studios in each and every state, and they can only offer games in that state which are broadcasted from the local studio, right? So that means that they are not exactly able to build studios to cover all the game catalog. So they have this massive studio in Riga, for example, which encompasses the entire Evolution catalog of games, which they can then offer to most of the regulated and pre-regulated markets across the world. But in the United States, they are only able to offer these kind of ring-fenced studio games that they are able to build. So it's very much an infrastructure question. Whereas in Ontario, in Canada, that is not the case, and they can take use of the studios that they have globally in order to offer the full catalog of Evolution games in Canada, or in Ontario here specifically. So that is also good news for the B2B suppliers in general, that it's easier for them to establish themselves in this province now as well.
Yeah, for sure, another wide market which will open up by the 1st of April, as already stated. So, and we have seen all the discussions floating around. If you just how to actually calculate the overall market cap of a company based on revenues which origins from white market, gray markets, etc., and what is the multiple which you need to actually calculate the overall market cap of a company. We've seen the short seller reports which hit the market price of Evolution quite big, and with even more and more markets becoming wide, we will for sure even see more significant and reliable numbers which will not be affected by short seller reports as much as we have seen in the past. In the past, we're speaking about a time span of like 1 or 2 or 3 months. It's not like back in the MC Hammer times.
Right? Don't forget there, it's dog years we are talking about here in the gaming industry. Time moves quicker in our industry, I think.
Yeah, another thing which we already see is like how the big companies actually try to catch up with the latest and greatest innovations. That's why Entain, they have set up a 100 million funds fund, sorry, a 100 million fund, and they already spent or are about to spend 40 million pounds out of this fund to set up a tech hub in London to actually access and to catch up with the metaverse innovations. So as Todd is always looking forward to, he's a product-driven guy. So that's why Entain, they are about to actually catch up with the latest and greatest products in the metaverse vertical as well. I know that you are very keen on metaverse. Can you just walk us a little bit into the topic?
Yes, absolutely. And you know, Nico, this topic is again something that I think everyone should keep front and center in general. Like I'm a big fan of emerging technology in general, and obviously the next frontier, so to say, is this push into the metaverse. And some people, they argue that it's a big hype word at the moment, and there's not so much substance behind it in this kind of Web3 push in general. But I think, and I think to some extent, we are moving into the unknown in a sense, and no one knows exactly what is going to come out of this overall, and no one really knows if this is something that is a passing trend or if it's here to stay, so to say. But I think it's a mistake to brush these emerging technologies aside before you explore them with an open mind, right? So that's the perspective that I'm coming from, and that's why I always am excited for kind of these new trends that are emerging. So not only is it me, but as you mentioned here, Entain have committed themselves to this 100 million pound fund in order to explore emerging technologies, including opportunities within the metaverse and Web3 in general. And so what's happening at the moment is a lot of blockchain-based play-to-earn games, such as the Sandbox, for example. And I encourage everyone to check out what the Sandbox is, because it's just absolutely fascinating. It's a game which economy has a market cap of several billion USD, and the game has yet to launch. It's just absolutely remarkable. And this game is setting really big partnerships at the moment with top lifestyle brands and performers and celebrities and these type of things who are keen to kind of jump on the bandwagon early. And within these games, within these kind of open world play to earn games, there are opportunities to incorporate gambling. And so we've seen that in Decentraland, for example, which is another metaverse blockchain-based game where gambling, actually real money gambling, is prevalent. And it is expected that also in the Sandbox now, which is kind of the next generation metaverse, we'll also see kind of gambling incorporated. So this is the very obvious use case for our industry to adopt, which is basically creating casinos in the metaverse with real money gambling. But obviously, as this technology is emerging, there will be more opportunities on the NFT and Web3 front in general for our industry to adopt and respond to this new technology. So that is kind of like the executive summary here, if you will, on the latest movements on the metaverse / iGaming front. And in addition to this, like, I mean, there's a lot of different Web3 related gambling products, like BetX, for example, which is a decentralized sports betting platform that lives on the blockchain. There's Virtue Poker, which is a decentralized poker platform that is coming as well, and many other products that are kind of popping up from left field, so to say, that are potentially disruptive to the traditional online gambling industry. So I'm gonna leave it with that, Nico, on the gambling in the metaverse for now, and it's obviously a topic that we are exploring quite heavily here. And in our New York conference in May, we will be exploring this topic specifically with a dedicated conference room, which is exploring the intersection between gambling and Web3, which is basically a summary of NFTs, blockchain, and the metaverse, essentially. So yeah, that's it, Nico. What do you feel about all of this?
as said, right? So our industry is always adapting to the new trends. Although it seems like we're always actually just following a path, right? With respect to what kind of technology can we use? The overall technology, like mobile, is always innovated somewhere else, right? And we just make use of this latest technology, right? And if we just come back to where this innovation lab is actually located, it's Charterhouse Square, which is in Farringdon, and what's within Farringdon, it's the UK headquarters of media firms of TikTok and Snapchat, right? So you just see heavyweights within the social media part, and then Entain actually, placing their so-called Innovate hub just close to these guys, to actually just being neighbors of these social media giants, and just having a look, maybe during a coffee break, when people just meet outside, they can discuss things, right? And that's always a good thing. Why you specifically, actually touch down at a specific location, like at the Silicon Valley as well, right? It's like 80 kilometers where you have all the heavyweights, usually going to the same university, sharing the same campus as well. So for sure, and as said so often, we will just see how our industry will evolve and just catch up, making use of the latest and greatest technology and movements within any markets.
Absolutely, Nico. And I think that's a great way to start summarizing today's broadcast, which has been very interesting, to say the least. Thank you to Connor Mulher, and thank you to Jake Evans, who jumped in and gave some interesting context and nuance here to the reporting week of the industry and all its movements. And Nico, as always, I mean, it's absolutely fantastic doing these things with you. And what do you say, Nico? Shall we go down to the beach and have
one
a
more
mojito
thing.
together?
One more thing. We have we have a little premiere. First of all, my broadcast didn't break down. I have not been unmiked, right? So each and everyone could just listen. So it's a premiere. So whatever you just want to do next, I'm in. Right? I'm
Absolutely.
just happy it all worked out.
It worked. It worked. Technology was on our side today, Nico. So yeah, shall we do it down? We go down to the beach, have a pina colada, have a mojito, maybe
Yes.
a little bit of a Negroni, and then we do sail into the sunset together.
Exactly, like we always do, hugging it out.
That's right. That's right. All right, we will be back here next Friday again, 10 a.m. CET as always. Great to have you guys with us, and wish you all a great Friday and a great weekend.
Okay.
Thank you, Nico.
Bye-bye to the audience. Bye.
Bye-bye.